And I believe we are live. Let me make sure. Yeah, I think we good. I think we good. But what's going on, brother? What's up with you?
Oh man, another day in paradise.
Oh,
Excited to
okay.
talk about Dalton Connect. Excited to be here with our Lakers family and dive into the tape, dive into the film, and kind of talk about the pros, cons, and just kind of how his year went overall. How you doing out there before we get started?
I'm getting better day by day, man. You know what I'm saying? It's been a good couple weeks for me. So hopefully we can continue to lock in and let me turn that down. Lock in and get all the way back on the mend out here. It's been a long time
Fantastic.
coming.
All right, I love that. I'm glad you're starting to get there. All right, cool. So we'll start with Dalton Connect. Dalton Connect's going to be the focus today. We might dip into Jaxson Hayes and a couple other players that we didn't talk about last time because we hadn't written the reviews. Again, on silverscreenandroll.com, we are reviewing every single player's season. So doing season reviews, one article for each player. This week, today, we actually wrote the one on Dalton Connect, his best moments and kind of what his season was like. And I went deep into this one, Anthony. I went into my bag for this one. I wrote a lot of stuff. I watched like at least half a dozen games or so, and looked at the stuff and the data and everything. Tried to see, kind of you forget after the whole year's over. You just remember a couple main parts and like overall feelings, but it might be easy to forget. And before I kind of give my thoughts, obviously the article shares a lot of what I think. What did you think overall, just generally on Dalton Connect season?
Well, for me personally, I watched every single shot that brother took, every pass, every turnover that he attempted. Pretty much, I tried to get into some of the defensive possessions. The high low doesn't exist anymore. It'd have been way easier to watch his defensive situation. But I think overall, given the circumstances, he had a relatively good season for like what happened to him over the course of the season. Now, some of it was of his own doing, but I think he
Mm-hmm.
was one of the guys who suffered the most from like the whims of JJ Redick's like searching for stuff early in the season and like trying to find things that work on the roster with lineup configurations and things like that. Um, Largely due to like his inconsistency as a person who can execute the things that you need executed out on the floor. He's a rookie. He doesn't know certain things. Offensively, there was that big moment where JJ blew up at him about not knowing his plays, and that
Yeah.
transferred like tremendously over on the defensive end, which is probably the reason he wasn't playing nearly as much. He was not only did he not he wasn't able to execute certain things, just like physically, he's not a guy who has figured out defensive techniques and things like that on this level that's going to allow him to guard certain people. Offensively, I thought he was really good for what we asked him to do. I think JJ kind of had an idea of what he was before the season and kind of tried to mold him
Yeah.
into that kind of thing. And that being like this off screen, off ball shooter guy, as opposed to what I think he is, which is more of a natural scorer and a guy who can get hot and shoot, but he's more of a scorer than the kind of off screen guy they had. And I wanted to test that theory, just like make sure my eyes were telling me what I thought they were. And so I checked his off screen percentiles in on Synergy that's on NBA.com. And let me make sure I got the number up.
Oh yeah, go ahead.
Let me
Yeah,
see.
go for it.
He had 66 off-screen possessions, which was his second most half-court possession type outside of being a spot-up man, which he was absolutely amazing as a spot-up shooter. But off screens, he had 66 possessions. He was 0.76 points per possession, which is in the 17th percentile in the NBA, and that was his second most used play type of like all of them. And I didn't think that it was a good fit for him just because I don't think he's the kind of guy who can come off the screens directionally and be a consistent shooter. He's not like going to struggle or anything like that, but I don't think that was uh what was his best attribute as like a basketball player. I think he's a guy that needs the ball in his hand a little bit more and needs to be more of a scorer. I also check like his shooting numbers and things like that. And he was a great spot up shooter. Like I said, I think he was in the 95th percentile as a spot up shooter. But just
Right.
like seeing the kind of shots that he got, most of them were zero dribble shots. Like if he shot between 1 and 6 dribbles, he pretty much shot well in all areas of the floor. So long-winded, but I think that he provided a lot of stuff on offense. And I think he was kind of miscast in some of the things that we asked him to do overall. But it is what it is.
Miscast is interesting. I didn't think of it that way,
Right.
but I see how you kind of got there. And
Yeah,
I think
just
for me,
not like not he wasn't like pigeonholed or anything like that. But I think
yeah, yeah.
the thing we asked him to do the most outside of spot up shooting, I don't think he's the best at doing that specific thing.
Yeah, but I do agree that there were, I think Reddick did kind of put him in spots, especially late in the season where he didn't have chances to kind of excel. I think that we have to remember, like, even though he's an older rookie, this guy's a rookie. He came in
Right.
and he played so well early on that he had to start for a stretch of games. Like, think about that. Like, LeBron, AD, Austin, D'Lo, and he worked his way up quickly. You
Who do
know,
you think? No, that's what. Like, we'll talk about that later.
yeah, we'll talk about D'Lo later.
Oh
But
no,
but
we're
he
talking about just the fact like he didn't like the way we were switching the lineups. Like I think we were searching for something a little too quickly in my estimation. But it is what it
Yeah, we'll get to JJ Redick soon enough. He's gonna have his whole day. I got 3 hours booked for JJ.
is.
But yeah, I think that with Dalton Knecht, I think we need to kind of, not great on the curve, but hey, this is his first year in the NBA, man, and he did a lot of really great stuff. He had that monster 37-point game, and like you said, yes, the biggest weaknesses are clearly there. That viral moment was like, it's your effing play, and he calls timeout so mad because he's trying to, I don't even know if he was trying to set a screen or if he was trying to ask for the ball from the high post, but that was clearly not what they wanted to run. And JJ's like, we gotta just call timeout because it's just a mess. And I think that those kind of plays were tough. There were other moments too. I remember there would be times where plays are happening and he doesn't know what to do. He's kind of just standing in the corner, or he'll just go to the other side. There was one moment, just like a little blip in the season, but he thinks he has to rotate. So he
Mhm.
rotates to the other side, and Gabe's on the other side, and Gabe doesn't move, and then they're both there, and then Gabe's like, "What are you doing?" And then Dalton's like, "I don't know." And then Gabe, I think he just moved one slot over. He's like, "I guess I'll go to the wing because now we got two guys in the corner, and we have an empty slot, which could be a good idea, but it's not what we're running." So, so
Right.
things like that, those little details is like, ooh, like I can tell you're lost because everyone's looking like, why did he go that spot? And defensively, he has issues. He needs to work on that physicality, and even like things like he can't front a big. Like that's something he just cannot do. Like every time he tried to, they would literally just do a little swim move and he's out the way, and that was it. And he didn't have
Right.
a counter, and he couldn't do that. He also struggled on pick and roll defenses. He just couldn't fight over a screen. He couldn't go under and recover in time. Like he was just like whenever they put him in pick and roll switching actions, he was really rough defensively. He did do a good job of like keeping an eye on his man in the ball. So he didn't really have a lot of backdoor cuts that happened on him. So that was good. And he did typically get aggressive when shots went up. Every time, for the most part, when shots went up, he did two things. He looked to see his path to the rim, and he looked to see if there's someone he needed to put a body on. He did that
Mhm.
relatively well. Now, sometimes he just was too weak and they still outmuscled him. So it's not like he got it done right, but the details were there. He's looking, okay, is there someone behind me or can I just go for the ball? And then he would react. So I like that about his play. And obviously he's a pure shooter. He's, Reddick said it in preseason. He's a 1% shooter, but he looked at him like, all right, like calm down. And then he kind of started off, kind of looking that way. He hit 9 threes in that 37-point game.
Big
And I
laser
think also
hours, baby.
what's underrated about his game as well is his ability to finish. But actually, let's break it up so we don't just talk about everything all at once.
Mhm.
Um, Anthony,
You
if
want me
you
to throw
could,
them
I'd love.
highlights on there? You want me to throw
Yeah,
the
yeah.
highlights up?
Which ones do you want to go with? Do you want to go with the Utah game first? I have a Blazers game that I kind of want to look at as well, where he
It's all,
didn't play his best, but he had
it's
some
all
good.
on you. If you got a specific thing you want to do, go ahead, do your thing.
Let's can you pull up the December 8th Blazers shots that he took, or do you need me to send you the link? I can send you the link.
I mean, I can do it on Shot Creator pretty much.
Okay, cool. Go ahead and do that. I'll just
You said
riff.
December 8th.
Yeah, December 8th against the Blazers. Yeah.
All right. So
That I think that was the last time he started before they ultimately benched him. But he had some good buckets there that I'm like, you see, like this is the kind of stuff like I kind of wish we saw a little bit more of. And then maybe we can do his big highlight game, and then we'll take it from there.
ooh, let me turn it
Um,
down. If you hear it, let me. It's on. You
yeah,
said
yeah, I'll
December
let you
8th.
know how the sound's going.
You said December 8th.
Yeah.
You only got 5 buckets on that one. We showing them.
Yeah. Well,
All
a
right.
couple of the buckets I like. That's why I want to go to them. Yeah.
Okay.
He
About
didn't
to
go
get
crazy, but he
he
had two
attacking
more
some
nice ones.
closeouts. He getting some
Yeah,
strong
I'll look.
layups. All right.
All right. So again, he didn't have a great game here, but a few of these buckets I think were nice. Again, getting the rebound.
Oh, it got assists and everything on there too. I
Okay, cool.
probably should have
Okay, cool. So we'll just watch
filtered
his,
that.
his tape here. And again, this is one of his weaker games, but he had some good moments, especially scoring.
Handoff
I really like
situation.
that one.
Get range
Off
tempo.
dribble handoff, gets to the top of the key, cuts to the basket. Really nice there. And this one I like too. Like we didn't see enough of him in fast break actions. I really like D'Lo. He had some really nice bounce passes for Dalton. I
There's
like this
one
one
of them.
too. Yeah, that was another one, right? That one was really nice because on that one, Dalton actually pointed. He wanted a oop, and then D'Lo said, "No, I'm going to give you the bounce," and he was able to adjust and get it. So I like that they were able to kind of have that communication on the fly. It worked out really well. Again, he's a really strong finisher at the rim as well. I think that's another underrated part of his game. People just think he's a shooter. I'm like, there's a couple of things he can do if you just kind of set some plays up for him.
Right.
He had a couple nice steals too. Has a good nose for the ball. He picked up a couple good steals in this game that led to fast breaks and just was kind of aware of his surroundings in that scenario.
Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's what I liked about it. And I think there's also, if we can look at, let me see which game he had against the Clippers. I thought was really, really good. Where actually we'll get to that later. Let's actually go to his biggest highlight. Can we go to the November 19th? Yeah, the Utah game, November 19th. So that's his biggest one. I believe he had 38 points. We'll go to that, and then I'll have some questions to you about what happened post Luka trade. So this game is the game I'm sure everyone knows. It's the one where he just went on fire. We'll watch this. Is it just his points or is it everything?
I just put his points. Could you
okay, cool.
Can you see this?
Yeah, I can see it.
You can see it? All right, cool.
All right, so here he goes. And actually, he didn't start off slow, but he started off just okay. Like, right, corner three, immediately, bucket. And later on in that third quarter, I think is where he really, really caught fire. Mm-hmm. And again, these kind of just plays, I'm just like, wish we would have saw more of it later in the season. But they were giving him some good looks early on.
Man, he tore them corners up on both sides. Like yeah. I think it was at least 45 in each corner. I think, but I might be. He was above 40 on both of them. I think
here's another nice D'Lo one.
Mm-hmm.
Look, see, he keeps finding them. Fast breaks, he finds them. I don't know, something to think about. You know what I mean? Something to think about. Point guard finds scorers. Like I don't know. Yeah, nice lob from. That's another one. Dalton made the little.
See if they got any of that Finland on here because they used him a lot as an off-ball screener. I thought that was like an appropriate use of him for the most part.
Runs to the dunker spot, gets a dunk. So yeah, he's more than, if you're looking at these plays, it's not just a bunch of shooting threes. Like he knows how to like run the floor and get a look. Mm-hmm. Comes off a screen, boom,
right there.
Exactly.
Well, not really. Cam had two guys to screen. He wasn't quite sure which one he was screening.
And here we go. Here's the one. He gets the first one. And again, D'Lo being aware. He's like, hey, he just hit one. What happens if I give it back to him? And he goes here. They do a little hot potato. He kicks it back out. He's like, no, you're going to take this, man. And there it is. And now it's when he starts catching fire here. That's his second one. LeBron's getting excited. Yeah. And they were about to, here's where the virality really comes in. Again, D'Lo keeps finding him. He's like, I'm going to keep feeding him. And he's like, all right, I got this. And that's the one. He does the MJ shrug.
Vando.
He did a little like, my hand's hot. And then he finds him again. D'Lo just kept feeding him. Like sometimes, just keep it simple. The hot guys got the ball. Like just
D'Lo been on the other end of that where guys weren't passing them the ball. So I'm sure he like, I'm going to make sure that we get this brother his business.
And he would have got a fifth one, but right here he gets fouled and he makes all 3 free throws. So coming up after that shot.
I don't know if they're going to show that. I don't know if they show fouls.
Oh, you're right. Yeah. They probably won't.
Right there. D'Lo set the screen and let him free that time. So
he was doing He's doing everything to like create those opportunities, right? It's D'Lo knowing like I'm going to feed him the ball. I'm setting screens for him. Yeah, that was an incredible game. You were live for that, Anthony. What was it like watching that go down? When did you feel like, oh man, this guy's doing something special tonight?
Well, we kind of got a taste of like him doing that kind of thing in the preseason game against, I believe it was the Suns. So
yeah, the Suns. Yeah, 31.
That was the game that at least like he can do it against upper level competition as well. Even though the Jazz have been silently tanking for however long it's been at this point, but. It was a playing game. I mean, not a playing game. It was an in-season tournament game against an NBA opponent, and he showed a variety of skills in that specific game. Just in terms of being able to make shots, he made some off screens. He had some transition buckets. He had a nice little baseline cut. He showed us a good variety of things as a scorer. He didn't really even have the ball that much. It was like a Klay Thompson kind of like heat
Yeah.
up situation. So you could see that you could rely on him in certain respects as an off ball player at the very least. Um, and I was praying for him to get that 40 bar. I was singing and dancing about it. It just never came to fruition after a certain point. I think we just didn't put him back in the game because we were beating him by too much. But
Yeah.
I was expecting the 40 ball to come. I think he missed at least a free throw, and I'm like, he might not get it if you don't get back in this game. But it was a great experience. It was one of the first joyful games of that season because remember we started that season off like shakily. So like it was one of the funner moments that we had early on in the
Yeah.
season.
And I was in the building, so it was kind of crazy. I remember like midway, like halftime or so.
For six.
I was talking with Jacob, and I'm like, I think we need to write about Dalton. He's like, we wrote about Dalton enough. I don't think so. And I'm like, I think we should. He's like, all right, we'll see what happens. And then he really caught on fire. And then in the third quarter, he's like, all right, yeah, we're writing about Dalton. I'm trying to tell you, it's my shooter, man. Like we gotta write
I
about
feel
it.
you,
Like,
you
okay.
felt the aura emanating through the arena. You
Yeah,
was like,
yeah.
I
And
just
then
feel it, right?
yeah, Jacob's like, stop glazing, bro. I'm like, no, I'm serious. He's getting there. And then of course, when he hit like 4 threes in a row, he's like, okay, yeah, we're writing about Dalton. And then it was crazy because it was a Dalton show. Like every single in the media room, every single question was about Dalton. It didn't matter if we were talking to JJ, LeBron, Dalton, Austin. It was like Dalton, 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 Dalton. Everyone was talking about Dalton. And it was just an amazing moment, you know. And unfortunately, that was a high. But I mean, it was a heck of a high. I think 37 points. Like not every NBA player. I know scoring's high, but there's only a dozen or so that actually gets to that kind of number. Getting the
Right.
opportunity and the ability. And again, he's a rookie. He went 9 for 11
Mhm.
from 3. He literally was not missing. Like it was
Right.
incredible. And we saw, right? It wasn't just that. He was scoring, he was dunking, he was hitting his mid, he was doing all 3-level scoring. And in my opinion, 4-level scoring, which is like also hitting his free throws. He missed that one, like you mentioned, but he hit 3 straight to kind of keep the streak going, keep his own little mini
Mhm.
run going. And that was how they broke that team. They broke the Jazz in that game because it was still kind of close going into that third. And then it became like, okay, it's a blowout. Why? Because this dude just hit like 5 3-pointers in a row.
Right.
So
And we
yeah,
we
and
played
we
those
scored like 2
guys a
times.
couple other times too, and they kind of gave us a little bit of a run for our money. So like they
Exactly.
weren't slouches out there. They just, they beholden to the whims of whatever their team is doing. But still
Absolutely.
good competition to have that
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
game.
And again, like just show me the list of players scoring 40. Like it's not that big of a list, regardless of opponent for sure. I think it was the third best Lakers performance of the season. I have to double check the stats on that in terms of points at least. And yeah, it was just showing his height, and it felt like a really good moment. What followed after though, we got less of those, right? And he started falling out of the lineup, started falling out of the rotation. And I don't even think he was ice cold in shooting. I just think, like you said, it was just searching for more and wanting more of the other details. And it's tough as a rookie to get it all together. I think that's the thing we got to remember. Like it's a struggle to do all that. And I get it on the Lakers. You're not going to get that grace right now when you got at the time LeBron and AD and all that, and you're trying to win. And like I understand he's probably gonna have a shorter leash than like what he would have if he played for the Bulls or something. But
Mhm.
I think that definitely hurt him, and his timing kind of just went down. He ended up becoming like a 15-20 minute guy, and not being as impactful in those minutes. When you saw Dalton struggle, what did you think were the biggest kind of issues between when he struggled and when he was performing at his best?
Like I was talking about in terms of like searching for things, I think he's so volatile as a player on both ends of the court, just in terms of if he's not succeeding at the things that he does well, he might not need to be out there due to how bad his defense is. And I think
Yeah,
the first sign of struggle, I think we kind of abandoned like whatever we had going. I know like Max was playing well, so like we had alternatives to put him in the starting lineup, and like Max, his downturn kind of coincided with Max's ascension. And like the thing we needed on the team more was what Max did, and he became more of a luxury at the time. I remember Spectrum Sportsnet, every time that brother would go to the free throw line, like during his slump, they would just show how poorly he was shooting. He was shooting like 19% from 3 or something, like for a long time. And like every time you go to the free throw line, they would put the graphic up on the screen. I'm like, come on with this, like, you know what I'm saying? But it was like immediately after, like, I think it was McMenamin wrote like LeBron might have found an issue. Like he started struggling a little bit, which shooters are gonna struggle. Like that's just a thing that happens. But if you don't have the ancillary skills, and he doesn't have free reign to do the other things that he's good at doing on the basketball court. So when you're a spot up shooter, mostly in your shot diet, and you're not hitting those shots, and you're basically a sieve on the defensive end, that's a recipe for you to not get as many minutes. And then we talked about how the guys that was setting them up, like D'Lo, wasn't on the team at a certain point, and
Also out of the rotation, right? Even when he
right,
wasn't on the team.
he was coming off the bench as well, and like so things were kind of in flux around him. I think if we would have like made the initial like Luka trade first, and like he was still partially in the rotation, we might have saw like another upswing from him at some point, even though he didn't
Mhm.
finish the season poorly or anything like that. But I think it was a confluence of factors that kind of just got him out of the rotation. Because remember, like even after he got traded, like JJ was like he's not going to be on the rotation, and then like something happened. I think somebody got hurt or somebody got sick, and he had to play, and that's how he kind of finished the season. And he was able to like get back in the rotation, but he never really found his footing again after
Yeah.
um Max's kind of ascension, which like it's not a thing was like a negative to our team because we started winning, but like for his own personal development, I think it took a hit just in terms of lost some confidence as a shooter. Well, maybe not. He wasn't able to shoot, and he wasn't trusted to do other things on the floor. And it kind of just affected him really negatively for a while there.
Yeah, no, I agree with a lot of the sentiment. I think that the Lakers needed a guy who could be a solid defender and knock down the occasional shot. And the thing about Christie's game is that it's super solid. Like the baseline is better than Dalton's baseline, which makes sense because Max is a 3-year player, and
Right.
and Dalton's
He was Dalton at several points in his own right. Like he struggled for
absolutely,
the
yeah.
majority
Ask
of the first
Darvin
3
Ham, he
years.
was, he was just sitting on the bench, right? So it makes sense, and he also was the guy who would just run to the spot, run to the corner spot, and then that's all you do, and then weak
Mhm.
side defense, and that's it, and a little bit of on ball, but it's probably not by choice. It's probably because they switched you on ball, and not stuff like that. So you're right, Max got a bigger role, which probably is justified, but I think there was, like you said, better ways to kind of use Dalton even in those moments and try to help him work his way out of stuff. You have to find ways to feed him, or even I don't think he spends any time in the G League. Maybe that would have been even better, just to be like, you know what, let's give you some extra run there, And I know they were still having him in the rotation, but you got to figure out like what's the best way for development. Maybe the best way is to be on the bench, play like 15 minutes, and be at Lakers practices. I don't know.
Right.
That's kind of a debate kind of thing. But I think
I do
that when
think
using his
I do think like maybe the thinking is like if you want to improve on your defense, I don't know if like the G League is the best environment to do that. Like, they probably like
right,
we know he a bucket, like he's probably going to score 50 points if he goes down there, but we need him to work on the ancillary stuff that he's not quite getting. We need him in the film room, like we need him to do these things to like
yeah,
traveling back and forth and stuff like that. So maybe that
he,
was part of the thinking, but he probably could have got a little bit of run down there as well.
yeah,
So
or yeah, maybe just I don't know, maybe just 2 games to be like, hey, just feel good about yourself and then come back, like just get a couple shots up and get in the rhythm and
right.
then come through. I'm just kind of spitballing like what could they have
Mhm.
done during the slump to kind of warm up, because he just kind of dip, and now we're gonna get to the other part of the season, right? Gets traded. So we think, and I'm not gonna name the name, but I think either after the Utah game or after one of his first big games, but not the Utah game. It was early in the season, so it might have been one of those times he scored 19 or the time he scored 37. I can't remember,
Mhm.
but a
That's tough.
unnamed source who covers the Lakers. That's why I talked to him. He told me I was excited because I'm like, man, like they
Montes
got one.
Bucella's came back
Yeah,
with the scoop.
no, no, no. Yeah. So I was excited, right? So afterwards, just like anything else, we be talking and just shooting the stuff and all that. So I'm talking post game with some people in the media like work area, and I'm like, man, I love Dalton, blah blah blah, like so excited. Wasn't that great? And they were like, yeah, yeah. And then they said, well, what really makes this interesting is it gives them a trade piece. And I was like, oh, are you serious? We're talking about trading.
Players are not commodities, man.
I'm like, this guy just dropped. It was either the 37-point game or like I said, one of the ones before that. He just dropped 20 off the bat. Like, what are we doing? He's like, no, hear me out. He's like, hear me out. I know. I'm not saying trade him. I'm saying he provides them another piece, because right now they don't have too many pieces people want. They're not trading. At the time, he's like, they're not trading LeBron, not trading AD, not trading Austin. So who can you trade? Now you have Knecht and you have assets. And I kind of rolled my eyes, but I'm like, all right, I kind of hear you. And then when it happened, I was like, oh my God, they're right. They
Right.
were right. It literally happened. They got better. They made the big trade for Luka, and because Dalton is an exciting player, it gave them a piece to get Williams. Now, obviously, we know. Hey, shout out to Hoop Spaces. He's in the building. Does a lot of work on Twitter, doing Twitter Spaces and stuff. So shout out to you, Chris. And Anthony. And then a moment I thought about that conversation I had with that unnamed reporter. I'm like, they were right. Again, they've been doing this longer than me, so they were probably thinking, their heart wasn't in it the way my heart was in it. I'm like, how dare you try to trade our rookie? He's like, oh, he was right. They did trade him for some assets. But as you know, upon further review, they went through, the medical stuff and said, hey, man, the Carfax wasn't matching.
3 bathyatomies, no?
Yeah, the Carfax wasn't matching. And, I don't want to get into the argument of that, but clearly, the Lakers only did that because they must have felt that it was not good because, they probably ruined relationships with the Charlotte Hornets. We're probably not seeing a Charlotte Hornets trade for a while. So
yeah, I've only seen that happen like maybe 2 or 3 times, like ever.
I think Tyson Chandler once, and there was a couple times it almost happened. Remember with the Kyrie trade, they wanted to rescind that because of one of the other players that was involved in it. But then the NBA was kind of like, hey, man, y'all got to figure this out, and they were like, because, yeah, they didn't like something with the medicals. They're like, we knew he was hurt, but he's hurt more than, this is right. More and all that stuff. So it's very rare, and there's a reason why it's very rare. It hurts the player's reputation, the agents. It makes you look. It's not. It wasn't a good. It
Mark Williams still mad about it. It's like, what you so mad about, bro?
I get it. You're saying he's a lemon. That's what you say. So of course,
but like, if you know you ain't, if we doing something like, you know what I'm saying?
Well, I get it. So like in Mark Williams' defense, he's mad he's still in Charlotte. Says,
I mean, Charlotte is cool. Charlotte is cool. Like Charlotte is cool. I've been to Charlotte. Charlotte cool.
He's been to LA too, though. So he's like, man. He's like, what's going on? So
this anyway, Eric Collins guy just keep yelling. I keep hearing this guy yelling.
So anyway, it got rescinded. He came back. Such an awkward scenario. I can't, like you mentioned, they're not just commodities. These are people, right? Imagine your job saying, I don't want you. I'm getting rid of you. And then being like, actually, I got to take you back, unfortunately. And you having to come back and deal with that, it's tough. You know what I mean? Like, it's tough. It had to be tough on him. He told the story, because he's a rookie. So what I like about rookies is they kind of talk a little bit more than the veterans because they don't know no better.
He just be saying, whatever comes in his mind,
he be yapping. He literally told us the whole story. And he's like, oh, I was in the hotel, and then I was about to go, and they told me, and then I came back, and then he gave us the whole kind of, and it was crazy because it sounded crazy. It was like, oh, you were literally at the airport in Charlotte, and they're telling you like, oh, talk to me as soon as you settle down, and then you got to go back and like
turn all this plane around.
Yeah, psych, And then from there, he missed one game because, and I remember fans were kind of like, well, why isn't he playing?
Oh, yeah, the one that he was like, go ahead, take some time. You know what I'm saying? They're like, well, this brother should be helping the team. It's like, what are you talking
about? Fans can sometimes be silly. I'm like, look, like I said, imagine that was you. Like, I'd be like, man, I'm taking the whole week off. F y'all. What you gonna do about it? You ain't gonna do nothing. What are you gonna talk to the NBA PA for that? So
they ain't send my luggage back. My jumper's still in my bag somewhere.
Yeah, I would have rolled my ankle on the way in LAX. Like, I'm out. So I give Dalton tremendous props. He handled it like a pro. If he was feeling some type of way, he did a good job masking it because he answered the questions. He made it clear. He's like, hey, at the end of the day, doing my job, blah, blah. And then his first game back, he played pretty well. He scored like 10 points and he contributed. And I'm like, good on you. I saw him warming up, even though he wasn't playing the game that we were talking about. I saw him warming up, in his like fit and everything. And I'm like, he's warming up for a game. He's not playing for a team that didn't want him. Like, you know what I mean? Like, props to you, Dalton. Like, you're winning in life. You're doing your thing right, even if things are messed up. And hey, he settled in. I want to talk now about the Luka Dalton stuff. Raj, let me see, because he hasn't tweeted as much because we're in the off season now. Let me see if I can pull up the tweet. He had a really good one.
Them on-off numbers was crazy.
Yeah, on the fact that again,
PPP time.
Yeah, it's understandable that we don't have. I found it. Okay. It's understandable we don't have a lot of Luka data because he came in February and the season ended in April. But it's still kind of shocking. Some things like, again, why didn't we try this out? And I put it in there in the chat. The plus minus numbers, Luka and Dalton. He says, here's what Raj says: only 160 minutes this season with Dalton next to Luka is a shame. Plus 12.5 net in a small sample. For reference, Dalton played more minutes with Trey Jameson this season than he did Dalton Knecht. Does that make sense? Dalton playing more with Trey than it does Luka. No, it does
Actually,
not.
I'm about to look this up because I want to see something. But PBP has different stats than NBA.com, but I want to see what the defensive rating was.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Because sometimes
And
like it'd be a plus 12 and it'd be like, yeah, offensive rating plus 135,
right,
defensive rating.
defensive,
So
yeah,
let
exactly.
me
It's
see.
something crazy. Go ahead, and then after that, I got a game for you to pull up
Luka
where I think it shows a good
Dalton.
example of like what Luka and hey, Roger's in the chat. Shout
What's
out to
going
you, Rod.
on, brother?
We're talking about
So
Dalton Connect and going through some of the film. Right now, Anthony's pulling up some stats to double check some things,
yeah,
see what the other
it
data
said it
of this
says
current
that
game.
they have on PBP it's 11.85 plus minus well net rating I should say. And the defensive rating 104.72, offensive rating 116. So they was clamping up and swishing
Yeah, not
up.
bad,
So
not bad. 104, I'll take that. I'll take that. And the game I want you to look up if you can, and you can just look up all his work or just his scoring. I'm okay either way. Is the uh um excuse me, March 2nd, the Lakers Clippers. That was the game where Dalton played significant minutes, 25, which was a little higher than some of the other games the rest of the way. And the Lakers played the Clippers, and he had some really good moments with Luka there as well that I thought was
let's do all of it. Let's do all of
yeah, yeah, let's do all of it. Really good. I mean, could they survive? I mean, maybe they couldn't, but I would like to see more of it for sure. And I think the small
it. That
sample
was the
shows.
point. We didn't get enough time. No.
Yeah, we didn't get
The
enough
answer's
time.
probably no, but you know.
And there's nice putback dunk by Dalton there. So we're looking at these are all of Dalton's stats, right?
Yes, everything's
Okay,
shots.
cool. And there he is, right? Luka Dalton. And then he finds him. Boom. In the corner, like we've been talking about, right? He draws two. Dalton relocates from the low post to the corner, and he gets his bucket. So it's these kind of things that, you know, I would have liked to have seen more of throughout the season. Again, this is a Clippers team that...
Is that it?
There's no way.
No, it froze for some reason.
Okay, yeah, he had 19 points. So
right.
he did not just watch 19 points. All right, here we go. Again,
I was
on
doing
ball.
something else. I was making sure.
Platoon Battalion, got him.
Let me see that again. Let me
Yeah.
back that up.
All the
Because,
platoons,
like I said, like everything below 6 dribbles, he shot at least like 45%, like on jumpers, if I remember correctly. That's all across like mid ranges, all of that. Like I don't know why this keeps freezing, but his jumper, like he shot 1.3 points per possession as a spot up shooter. But like his jumper was good all over the floor in multiple scenarios. Oh, nice read of the steal there.
If you can replay this, that was pretty good because
actually, they kind of threw him the ball, but he read it.
Yeah. He read it well, yeah.
He read the little exchange.
Actually, pause it real quick. Shake Milton actually helps him. If you look here, he tells him, go behind me. And he says to the watch, look, he's looking at him, he's like, hey, go that way. And then boom. He got him, and then he steals. So great job on Shake being aware of what was happening, being like, I got you, just go right as soon as they...
That's the one thing I'll give JJ like super credit for this year. I thought our off-ball switching was like really good in terms of communication. Like, I can do it from here. Okay.
Here
but
it is.
I thought we communicated those things really well. Another step back 3 for that brother.
Said, yeah, look, he's handling the ball, top of the key, getting contact, going back. He's hitting his shots. He's doing a good job. Again, this is March 2nd. This is late into the season, post trade. Clippers trying to win games here. You know, this was, I think, for the I think this was for the season series, which the Lakers won. Boom, right in the slot. Boom. Nice.
It's probably a defensive possession.
Yeah, might got our steal. Yep, steal.
I tweeted about this. Like most of his steals on defense, which is like part of the problem, was like people just throwing him the ball. Sometimes he was in the right spot, but most of the time it was just like people just giving him the basketball. Like,
yeah, I'm like, yeah, he had a nose for it. That's what I just say. I'm like, hey, you just have a nose for it. Like, I don't know. Everyone else is on the floor for some reason. And again, that might even be just trying to pick on him. You know, you're trying to get the ball to Harden, right? And you're like, hey, Harden, switch on to, here we go, Luka. Rotate, swing. Bang. So that can help too. They're trying to pick on you and they try to force it. That's how you end up throwing a bad pass to James Harden just because, Dalton's on him and, you force a turnover.
That was the last shot of that game.
Okay, cool. So yeah, there are some examples there of the on-ball stuff we're talking about. So some nice assists from Luka there. And unfortunately, that was one of his last good games, Anthony. After that, he had another one against Brooklyn. And then there was like a Milwaukee game near the end of March that was good. And after that, he really didn't play.
The Jordan Goodwin, Gabe Vincent game? That's the game you're talking about?
I think so. Yeah. Um, so let me pull up the box score for this one.
So you said Brooklyn?
Yes. Hold on. Let me pull the date for you because it was in March. Brooklyn, March 10th. So like a week later. And these were the last moments that these are the last moments that Dalton really got significant time. After that, it goes to like 12 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes, 8 minutes, 4 minutes. That was it. And again, we have Luka. Look at this beautiful pass from Luka. Boom. You see, like that's the kind of stuff he was doing with LeBron. The kind of stuff he can also do with Dalton. Like it's possible. You just need to have him on the freaking floor. That's the main thing.
Like I talked about his play types. Transition was the second most one he had outside of spot ups, and he was in the 72nd percentile as a transition player as well. 1.23 points per possession in transition. He was really good at getting out and running. Sometimes he went a little rogue with his handles and stuff like that, but he was good at another leak out here.
Yeah, again, he's just getting ahead, getting in front, taking advantage of fast break opportunities. I appreciate that, OPDC. I promise.
Short action, baby. We got some short action.
Look at that. Oh, look at that. Is Raj still in the chat? Look at that. Beautiful play. Look at that. Oh my, there's so much good happening here. Oh my goodness. And he puts the hammer down. See, like it ain't.
He missed at least 3 of these, but that one.
Yeah, that one he got. Yeah, look at that. Beautiful.
He was trying to murder that rim every time.
Yeah, he did. He definitely dunked with authority. That's what Max Christie needs to learn how to dunk from Dalton Knecht. See how you can use one hand?
Max ain't got hops like that though.
Definitely doesn't. No,
Max a little bit of a heavy jumper, but he did. That's when we noticed that Max was really starting to get it. When he started jumping off one foot and using one hand, like it's like, okay, he's starting to understand how to play through contact in the NBA.
And again, this is late in the season. And again, still an example. Like I think sometimes people think, oh, he just started off good and it was bad the rest of the way. It's like not exactly. There's a lot more bad after that, but there's a lot of these are good examples. This is I think like a 19-point night. Deep into the season. Again, open three, knocks it down.
We needed all of them. We still lost, but
yeah. But look here now, 5-point game.
2-point game, baby. Talk to me nice, baby, from the logo.
Right? Yeah, again, 2-point game now.
Got another one.
Yeah. Then we have
this. He did this really well. Like as an off-ball mover, he settled into the dunker spot like really well.
Yeah, he loved that dunker spot. He found his way there often.
He has a quick jump, so he's able to finish relatively well.
Yeah,
he had a couple nice two-handed dunks.
If he's open dunker spot, he's fast enough that you're not going to be able to collapse onto him once that pass is made. He's really good at finishing quickly at the rim. Too many times people are like, he's really comfortable with having his feet set and being able to grab that ball and go right into the movement. A lot of times when people are slow in the dunker spot is because their mechanics aren't there. Like their feet aren't set where they want, so they have to kind of gather the ball first. And then in that little half a second, that's the difference between an easy dunk and like, oh, that you're contested now and I got a pump fake and you got to do different things and take like a tough runner at the rim instead of just an easy dunk. And Dalton was really good at that. He's really comfortable. He's got really good mechanics for
he's good at opening up like to the ball like in certain spots. Another thing that he was like good at, but it wasn't enough like volume. Like he had good numbers as like a pick and roll man. Now most of those was like bump screens and just open up in the middle of the floor being wide open. But like he has some things that he can do off the ball that are beneficial, like in athletic terms. That's what I wanted to see from him more. I thought that was going to be the most valuable thing he brought to this team. It's like somebody that can attack off closeouts with athleticism and be able to play through contact and stuff like that. Because we haven't had that kind of guy on the roster. Like Max was on the roster, but he was bad at finishing with two hands. Like the numbers were what they were, but like I know what I saw, like in terms of like him playing to contact at the rim. I thought that was going to be something that he's going to be able to unlock, and he did it in spurts. But we didn't foster an environment for that for the most part, but like once we got Luka, like that could have been a thing that he added to this team as well. But like he was pretty much out of the rotation for the most part at that point. Not as a consistent player. Nice little situation right there. Let me run that back. What was that? I didn't even see that. Hold on.
Go ahead.
Oh, it was a little slip situation. Okay, then. But yeah, I think that he proved to be a reliable spot up shooter, and I think we left some of the stones of his game unturned. But he's a rookie, so that thing kind of happens to rookies, and he had part of it as well by not being good at the other aspects of the game that we needed him to be a guy that we would invest those kind of touches in down the line. So, you know, just a uneven season, but I think he played as well as he could have given a lot of the circumstances that he was under.
Yeah. I would say he still could have played a little bit better. I think especially with the other
I
things.
mean,
Like
I meant to say offensively.
yeah. Offensively, I'm with you. I think he did a pretty good job for the most part. His loud mistakes were defensive, and not even mistakes, just an inability. I think is the thing. When you see
Right.
him like unable to front, especially when the team wants to switch so much and kind of refuses to do anything else, it's like, okay, well, if he's got to switch 1 through 5, if you got to have him fronting bigs, he's struggling with that. Other teams are trying to pick on him on pick and
He's
rolls.
he's kind of a high guy, like a high center of gravity kind of guy, a little bit. Like
Yeah,
that's why he plays hoppy defense, like being able to get
yeah,
down
he's
and
bouncy.
not get dislodged by bigger guys. Like if you see his jumper, like most of it, it's like mostly like torso. Like it's not a lot of flexion on the bottom, and I think that's because he's more of an upright like kind of player,
Absolutely.
which kind of serves him well when he gets in the air and stuff like that. But defensively, I think he's always going to be like a hoppy defender. And when you
Yeah.
get hoppy, guys can get into your chest and your feet off the ground. Like it's a it's a proposition that you don't want to deal with. So like I think the death knell was just the thinking part of the game. Now, like
Yeah.
part of that comes with time, but like you can't be a bad footed upright defender and also not be locked into the game plan as well. I
Yeah.
think that's what
So
was his downfall.
okay, so I wish we could talk about his post-season play, but unfortunately, he didn't have any. So technically, he had, I think, 3 minutes in game 1
Your shot
and
creator got
30.
some stats for his postseason. You know what I'm saying? You want to see his whole postseason run? We
Go
can see that.
ahead, show me all 3 minutes and 40 seconds.
Let's get all of his playoffs out the
Well,
way.
yeah, we could do it. The commercial break. That's how short it was.
Let's see
Almost
how
nothing.
many things they put on here. Let's see.
Oh my God.
Oh, I didn't check the box. That's my bad.
No, you got it. You got it. Yeah, there wasn't
Oh,
much there, so we can go ahead and they can make this into a TikTok. All is film. You don't even need you can upload every minute on Twitter, no problem.
He logged 3 things. I don't know what they are. I know at least
I'm
one
gonna
of them
say
is a
a
shot.
basket, a rebound, just a rebound, and probably an assist. He might
Okay, then
get them all in one.
mid range, cash money. Got it to
Oh
go.
yeah. Clean. Got it in. All right, there you go. And even here, right, we're seeing some of the things we're talking about, right? On ball, Dalton. It's not as bad as you think. Got another 3.
2 off the
Okay.
dribble jiggles right there. Like I said, I could pull up the tracking, but like I was expecting it to be a little bit worse. And what was the third? What was the
I
second
think the
thing?
rebound and the bucket were 2
Oh,
and 1.
they usually transition better between them though.
Yeah.
I said, nah, you thought he had 3 things. He really had 2.
Yeah, 2. Yeah, two that happened in one play. So that's it. He had two buckets and a rebound. So he didn't play much. He played 3 minutes in that one game, and then he played literally 30 seconds in game 3. And we'll get to. So we can't really obviously judge him on that. It's like that's nothing. That's literally nothing. Like we couldn't give him a grade on that. We can't really assess that. I think that's more on Reddick. Like again, Raj mentions Luka, Dalton, DFS, Bron Hayes. Like that lineup. That sounds like a pretty solid lineup that gives you shooters. And I was going to use this quote, Anthony, in my article, but it wasn't like kind of worded good enough to like use. But Stu kind of mentioned it during, I think, the Clippers game. He said, I'm paraphrasing, but basically it was like after Dalton made Dalton had a dunk and he had a 3, and then the Clippers called timeout. And then I think Stu said something like, yeah, well, when you got Luka, Dalton, and DFS on the court, that's 3 shooters. And with those 3 type of shooters, good things can happen. And I'm like, then why didn't we see more of it? Like, like you get it. Like it's there. Like we needed to see more of it. So I hope that for next year, which we'll get to in a moment, that's the kind of stuff. Like, let's just try some more stuff out there, right? Like let's try these things. Like, I think about the Lonnie Walker game, right? The Lakers were up 2-1 against the Warriors. It's a tight game. Their offense was struggling. And Darvin Ham said, you know what? I know Lonnie Walker's not a great defender and he's been out of the rotation, but let's just kick the tires on him. Let's see. Right. We'll give him like 4 minutes and let's see what he does. Guess what? He played pretty good. And then he's like, you know what? It's risky. I'm gonna roll with him in the 4th. Let's see what happens. And then he exploded. He had like 18 in the fourth quarter. He killed the Warriors. Steph said it himself. Like, I'll never forget. Like, you know, and the way Redick coached through that series, it was impossible for Gabe to have a moment like that. It was impossible for Vando to have a moment like that. It was impossible for Dalton to have a moment like that. And that's what's kind of the bummer of it. It's like, I would like to see you try. And hey, if Dalton gets cooked on defense and turns the ball over and airballs, okay, well, you bench him and be like, hey, man, I gave you a shot. Like, I can't give you that many shots. But, you know, that was for me the bummer of it. It's like, man, he could have had a nice moment. You know, you got a shooter out there and your offense is dying. Like, literally, we're watching it die as the game's going on.
That was one of the worst offensive series I ever laid eyes on.
And I've watched 90s basketball. You know what I mean?
We was bringing it back. It's like, yeah, going into the 4 minutes left in the fourth quarter, 86 to 79. Like, what? What year is this, baby?
Yeah, so that's the bummer. But anyway, let's almost get too close to recapping for Dalton here. For Dalton, clearly we like his game. And we're generally positive on him, given the fact that he's a rookie and all that. But what do you, if it's up to you to tell him, hey, like, I need to work on stuff, what should I work on? What are the main things you really want him to work on this summer?
He has to watch film. Like,
so he should be in the chat right now, is what you're saying.
I think the main thing that was holding him back is just mental stuff on the basketball floor. He has, like I said, part of the stuff that is his problem on defense. I don't know if he's going to be able to change those things, just because of the way he's built and the way that he moves. I don't ever think he's going to be able to like contain guys off the dribble if like he switches onto a ball handler. Like, he might be able to do it in Spurs, but I don't think that's the thing that he's going to be able to do. Fighting with guys, he can get a little stronger and do things of that nature. But I think first it has to be the mental part of it. I think offensively he has a multitude of things that he can do well if given the opportunity, but the opportunity cost of him on the defensive end is what's going to hold him back from being a guy that plays consistent minutes. Perhaps like if it's on this team, that's what he has to work on. Like, if he goes somewhere else and it's just like, oh yeah, he's a 22-point guy and we don't need him to play defense that much, like, it could be a conversation. But for this team specifically, we have too many guys that can play offense that aren't as good on the defense. And we saw what happened to Luka and Austin in the playoffs. Like, you can't have another guy out there like that. And I think that was part of the reason we didn't kick the tires on him, because the games were a little too close to like try to put him out there. He gives up an 8-0 run like by himself. Like, then they're like, why you put Dalton in? Like, so I'm assuming that had a lot to do with it as well. But mostly just him learning the game, because I don't think he like lacks confidence or anything like that. And I think he can execute certain things on the floor that we need on the offensive end. Just him being able to guard his position at the very least. I like the way that he rebounded. I think he has potential as like a guy who could be like a weak side rim protector with the kind of athleticism he has, but that all comes as a part of like being able to know what's going on the floor. Like, so he has to be a little bit faster in processing things. And then I think his game will improve just if he locks into the mental aspect of it, which is not something that everybody gets, unfortunately, but he has to at least try.
The number one thing for me, well, there's a lot of things, but like, I used to play the shooty hoops before back in the day. And my biggest problem was the speed. I knew what to do. I knew the plays. I knew the sets. I couldn't execute them as fast as they were happening. It was breaking my brain. That's when I'm like, oh man, I might be cooked, because I can't do it at the varsity level, at an elite level. I can do it okay, but then then I'm getting yelled. It's like, why aren't you there? I'm like,
I'm the low man.
yeah, exactly. Like, it would just happen too fast. And that's
when my guy become the weak corner shooter.
And that's the reason why there's levels, and it's like, oh, you can't adapt. So it's like, yeah, I might be in trouble here. It might be time to get back to that math class and take care of business.
Get that piano, warm up them forearms.
Yeah. You got it. So Dalton, again, I'm not comparing myself with Dalton, but I can relate to. I know what to do. I can't. Like, it's happening too fast. He's got to get it better. And to your credit, everyone I've talked to has been concerned about the IQ thing with Dalton. Everyone tells me it's bad. And when I tell people who tell me, I'm like, yeah, I heard. They're like, no, Edwin, it's worse than you think. And I'm like, how bad is it? Like, come on, like, it's worse. Like, everyone tells me the same thing. And everyone always tells me, even though they're telling me it's bad, they're telling me it's worse than I think it is. So definitely a concern. But again, I still feel like, even though it's literally like dozens of people who've told me this, I'm still like, man, y'all probably just exaggerate just a little bit. Like, I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think
Can he
like
read
people
it?
like this. This was a discussion with Julius Randle a lot back in the
Mm-hmm.
day, and my thing was like I'm not one to like try to gauge what a person's level of intelligence is just because
Exactly.
what I see on the basketball court, because there's many things that happen, many variables that go into play about certain things. Like for Julius, like, oh, why didn't he make this read? Like he could have made this read. I'm like, either he didn't make it because one, he doesn't know, which I don't think is true. Two,
Right.
sometimes you just can't execute things given your physical limitations, or
Right.
you know what I mean. Sometimes you just want to go get a bucket, and like that just is what it is. So like, I'm never one to be like quick, like, oh, this guy, for like, like this guy's dumb out here. Like I'm
Yeah.
not
Yeah.
on that train. I always think that somebody, if you put in enough work, if you have enough game reps, you'll be able to get to some baseline level of understanding things. And he's like a wing defender, so like it's certain things that he's gonna have to know rotationally and things like that. But he could get away with like being a straight up like guy as well, because like the ask isn't as much as like a big man, or like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So I'm not gonna say he's a lost cause. He does have a lot to work
Oh, yeah.
on both ends of the floor. But like if he locks in, and like it's only so many sets teams run, like you can learn these things if you really
Yes.
dedicate it to doing it.
Yeah.
You just
So,
got to
so
see if
and
he's one of
also,
those guys.
yes, that's the thing. Guess what? I am dumb at. I used to know how to change the oil in my car, but I don't right now. So I
Oh
don't
yeah.
I don't do it myself. I
Skills
go to
atrophy, man, all the time.
yeah, yeah. So right now I am dumb in that. If I really wanted to learn, I could though. If I put the time in, so even if let's concede, okay, he's not there. He's little basketball IQ deficient. Okay, this is his job. If he wants to be good at it, he's got all the resources to not be dumb. So like it's up
Right,
to him, like you said. So I still look at that as like, okay, if that's the problem, we can figure how many hours does he need. Like we have the best basketball minds in the world. Like we can get him the help he needs if he's gonna care
right.
enough to do it. So it's gonna, like you said, it's up to him. Okay, if
And
you're
I think
not
oh, go
smart at
ahead.
it, get smart at it. Like it's doable. Like you said, it's possible. He already has all the other stuff together.
Right. I think like his basketball journey is like indicative of somebody who might work to get better. Like he's been what, on 3 levels of basketball at this point? Like he didn't
And he
start
started in
at
community
Tennessee.
college.
Right. Community college went up several levels, and now he's like, and that probably plays in part of why he's a little slower processing things, is just because like he only played like NCAA basketball for a short period of time, like the highest level.
Good example. Yeah.
And he was kind of like go roll the ball out there and give me some buckets guy more than anything. So like being in the basketball environment at the highest level, knowing what you got to lock in on. Hopefully the coaches in his exit meetings told him like what they're apparently telling everybody else outside, whispering to him. You know what I mean? Like there's ways you can kind of mitigate some of his problems, because he's, I don't, like I said, given his physical, like the way he moves and stuff, I think he's going to struggle just in terms of like his makeup as like biologically. But just being a second earlier on a rotation, like getting in front of somebody, like all of those things add up over time. And once you start seeing things a whole bunch of times, you start recognizing things. At least most people do.
Yes.
So if he gets enough game reps, maybe that's going to be with somebody else. But like, I think he has shown like he's a person who's going to work. So I'm not going to put it past him to work on the things that
Yeah.
he's deficient at.
For me, the jury's out. Okay, we got concerns. Let's see what he looks like this year.
Right.
And if he comes back. Now, why wouldn't he come back? I think we all know why. Rob Pelinka said that he's going to leave no stone unturned to find a center. So is the Mark Williams trade dead? Yes. That doesn't mean any other trade is dead. So Dalton is still an exciting player. And again, other people say, okay, cool. We will just have a trainer teach him freaking basketball. No problem. He can shoot, and he's under a rookie contract, the cheapest contract possible, with a CBA that's making it hard to acquire talent. Okay, sounds like if I just teach him basketball, I'm going to get an automatic shooter who would probably make $20 million on the open market if we can just give him the reps. So, someone can definitely see that. And see that with the first round pick and a pick swap, like they'd be fine. Go take this center that we don't really need as much because we're not trying to win right now. And now we got ourselves a great shooter who we can develop into like a 16, 18 point guy, shooting 40% from three. And that's a top, 30 player in the NBA or so, a lot of players, every team's looking for that. And I'm like, Lakers, you might have that if you develop it. You might have the kind of player you need. He might not be able to help you win a title right away, but that's a huge piece. But hey, if you need a center and Dalton's away, and that plus other moves means that this team's, going to be a 60-win team next year, then hey, I get it. You have to do the decisions you have to do. But if he comes back, I really hope that's what I'll be looking for. I'll be looking for how he does, with that kind of IQ basketball, X's and O's. Do we see him kind of out of position, lost, confused? Does some of that get cleaned up and we're like, hey, he's starting to look like he gets it? Because again, he will get better. No matter what, I'm positive he will get better. Will he get good enough is the question, but he'll get better. And keep in mind, in the 2020s, this was easily the best rookie season anyone on the Lakers has ever had. He played 78 games, even with all those limitations and Redick not liking him as much as the season went on. He still played him. He played 78 games.
Even when he took that sick day? What?
Even when he took the sick day. Yeah, I counted it. 78. He played 78. And that was double what Max Christie played his first year. And his numbers, he was better from the field, better from the three-point line, and scored more than Austin Reeves in his rookie year. So think about that. I'm not saying he's going to become Austin or Max, but I was saying he's ahead of them in his first year than they were, and look where they are at now. Austin is flirting with trying to become an all-star. Max Christie's a bona fide starter. Why can't that be Dalton in 2 or 3 years? He's already ahead of them. Why can't that be him in 2 or 3 years where he's a knockdown shooter, catch and shoot guy. He's baby Clay, and he's giving you 20 points and shooting 40% from three. Like, it's possible, but you have to have the patience. You have to build it up, and you have to invest in him. He's going to get better, and he only gets better. Like you said, I think that's a great point. He probably hasn't had the basketball knowledge and wisdom that other players had who've been coming up through the AAU camps and going to the best high schools and playing in the best colleges. Like, that's not his story. That's Max Christie's story. Austin has a mixed story too, but he had some good coaching there in the South. So that might be also another factor that I didn't even think about.
Christie had that Izzo stimmy.
Yeah. That's why when you watch Christie, you're like, but he doesn't do anything wrong, and that's what people liked about him. Like, you know what? You're not dumb. You make the right play. You might not be, electrifying, but you're in the right spot. You know what to do, and you just need to get your offense going. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm gonna say because Dalton had a good coach too, so I was just making sure I couldn't remember.
Yeah, my point was Dalton didn't have like you said he had community college. He had a different route.
Oh yeah. I wasn't countering your point. I was just trying to remember, what I mean?
Yeah. So that's I think the biggest difference. So yeah, I think that was a great observation by you on that. Okay, cool. So we already have the stuff there on Dalton. I think we'll probably wrap up there on Dalton. Is there anything else? Oh, actually, let's wrap it up with what was your favorite Dalton Knecht moment? Is there a specific play, a specific thing that happened, something viral on Twitter? What's your favorite Dalton Knecht moment?
Outside of the obvious Utah game, just the one interview where he was like, "Hey man, Draymond just be talking." I think it was emblematic of several things. Just like we talked about him not probably having that much media training, just just saying whatever as a rookie. But also I think one of the things that I like about Dalton, just he doesn't seem to care as much in terms of I don't think moments are too big for him or anything like that. He just seems like a guy who out here to hoop. And that might be part of his problem. Just he just out here thinking about shooting jumpers all day, but he doesn't seem like a guy that's going to back down from anything. And I think that even though he kind of was just speaking loosely, and I don't think it was meant as a challenge to Draymond, I just think that it was a thing where it showed that he's not afraid to say certain things, and he's not really thinking too much about what's going on outside of what he got going on, which can be a good thing if he locks in the right way.
Yeah, Hoops faces with a comment, but he was a senior. He was supposed to have a much easier transition. So for that answer, I say yes and no. Yeah, he's a senior, which means he's also older, which means he should probably be a little more advanced. But like we mentioned, no disrespect, but he played in North Colorado a couple of those years and that kind of thing. He only had one season in Tennessee, so he doesn't have as much experience as his age and the years he played kind of signifies.
And I think that the role that he has, as the top guy, particularly on the defensive end, you kind of need that guy to measure himself and pace himself over the course of
Yeah.
games. So like you can if you become like that upper echelon guy, you can build some bad habits as well, like on the other end of the floor. Not to like make excuses for anything, like because he obviously has to be
Sure.
better. But like I think his experience was a little bit different than
Yeah, he
most like
wasn't he
seniors
wasn't
we
a
saw.
4-year guy who was at UNC the whole time, and you're like, okay, he probably should. He was a senior who did community college, had 1 year at Tennessee, and then got drafted. So it's a little different than what his age suggests because he did not have 4 seasons, at Tennessee. So that would have been wonderful for him, but that wasn't his journey. My favorite moment is also going to be a interview. So after all this stuff happened and everything. One of the other highlights of Dalton Knecht season we haven't talked about is he was a rising star. He was in the Rising Stars game, and he actually won that game.
Yeah.
And they went on to advance to the next round. And before that was happening, when he was announced he was going to be a rising star, we had like a Lakers practice like the day after or something. And someone of the media people was there, and they're asking him, "Hey, how do you feel about being a rising star? Have you thought about the fact that if you win your games, you can actually play against your teammate LeBron James?" In the
Mhm.
Rising Star in the All-Star game. You could make the main All-Star game. And then Dalton just kind of looked at him and he's like, I didn't really think about it. I was like, I'm thinking about it now. And everyone just laughed because the way he said it was just kind of like, I'm thinking about it now. Like, I've never thought about this. It was just so funny, kind of like what you mentioned, like a silly way to answer the question. And then just like such an honest, like, I haven't even thought about that. Like, I'm thinking about it now. Like, yeah, it'd be crazy. Like, so everybody laughed because like only Dalton would say something so like random like that. But that was Dalton. And like we said, overall liked it. He's got room to grow into work, and hopefully he takes those next steps if he's back. If he's back, I hope he's back. And if he's back, I want to see him killing it in Summer League. I want to see him dominating those people in Las Vegas. For me, that's the early things I want to see. I want to see him come out.
You think he would be playing in Summer League?
Yeah, I think he will be. We don't need any more of that. I'm too good for the Summer League. The only player who should not be playing Summer League is probably Victor Wembanyama.
Bronny, no, I'm playing.
Yeah, no, Bronny will play. He confirmed he'll play.
Yeah, I know.
So Stephon Castle probably doesn't need to. But I'm like, for me, I'm like, we're hoopers, right? Like, go in there.
I don't know, baby. THT, baby. I think THT had a worse season than Dalton. He was like, I'm over it.
Yeah, like, well, and where's THT now? Who knows? All I know is he's
in Chicago, you know what I'm saying? Living his best middle-aged dad life.
Anthony, like, when I was kind of high on THT myself, so I'm not going to pretend that I wasn't. But when I realized he was in trouble, it was just like what we're doing now. Mm-hmm. I went back and I watched the tape, and I'm like, he's really bad on defense. I'm like, I don't think this is
and that was
better.
supposed to be like his thing. Like he got this man he got wingspan for days. I'm like, I'm not seeing him clamp up nothing.
No, I remember I saw back-to-back, I think it was against the Spurs, back-to-back plays where he just didn't have any lateral movement. It wasn't even the fanciest crossover. It was like ching ching gone, and I'm like, oh. And I'm one, and that's why I implore for the basketball sickos, try to do. I'll tell you this, for the basketball sickos, you don't have to do what we do because this is our job, so it's different. But just for fun, if you're bored this summer, instead of jumping on the trade machine and trying to get Giannis, do this: pick your favorite player and watch a game where you don't watch the ball. You just watch their movements. You'll pick up on so many things when you just watch an individual player and watch those movements. And that's what happened with me. I watched THT, just his movements, and that's when I'm like, oh, he's getting back cut because he's not looking enough. He's standing still. When he's on ball, they're easily going past him every single time.
And I'm like, oh, big body. It's like you ain't using his body. What's happening?
When I saw that, I'm like, and it was like I think the second year he had here or something. I'm like, oh, he's not. I don't think he's gonna develop. And before I watched the tape, I was like, oh yeah, I think he could. I saw his little funny shot, and I got excited too. And then when I saw that tape, when I really watched the tape, I was like, uh-oh. And then sure enough,
that jumper broke. Like
he underperformed. He underperformed that next year. I think he got traded after that, and we never heard from THT again. And again, it's a sign, watch the tape. Watch the tape. The tape don't lie. And that's another small sign. Like, you got to humble yourself a little bit. I get that your guys are all superstars and all that. They're all out there. Everyone should be out there for Summer League. And I'm not just saying that because I'm going to be there. I'm saying that because, you got to compete. And okay, if it's too much for you, do like Brandon Ingram and dominate, and then they'll take you out. So it's not hard to do that. Go out, prove to me that this is a waste of your time. Go drop 35 and dunk on everybody. We'll be like, oh, you know what? We're good. We don't need to see
Josh
anymore.
Hart, Max Christie type summer league.
Dalton just earning $4 million is something you need to think twice before shipping him. Cost control contracts are always welcome, regardless of team. That's right, George Santiago. That's what I was mentioning as well. And that's why he's a hot commodity. And that's also why it's tough to trade him, because unless you put first-round draft picks into it, what are you going to get back at $4 million that's better than Dalton? You're not. So you have to figure that out as well. So, and that's why also Cam Reddish was in that trade, which we didn't really talk about. But Cam was in that.
Are we going to talk about Cam? I didn't see
No, we're not going. The unofficial rule on Silver Screen and Roll is you have to stay on the team. And since he got waived,
I forgot he got jettisoned. I totally forgot.
That's why we're also not doing D'Lo. So we don't do everyone who ever played with the Lakers.
We don't need to do D'Lo. You know what I'm saying? I'll be up here for 4 hours talking about some D'Lo.
Here's another play you guys didn't see. You know what's funny too?
You got jerked around a lot, but it's all good.
Yeah. No, I get it. It was bad, and it's so funny seeing the hypocrisy from Lakers Twitter sometimes, because whenever D'Lo played well, all I would hear about was like, "Yeah, well, in the playoffs, he was." Blah, blah, blah. I can't wait for this year when Austin scores 35. Yeah.
He played 6 games. He scored 23 times.
when Austin scores 33, I'm gonna be like, "Oh yeah, well, let me see him do it against Minnesota. Let me see him do it against Minnesota."
That's pretty much what the standard is. Like, people have been talking about that for a long time. Like, if you go and look at the first playoffs that they all played together, like, go and look at D'Lo and Austin's stats, and then think about how people talked about both of them. I think Austin made 7 more shots than D'Lo the entire playoffs. Like, we were talking about this in a group chat. Like, you kind of get punished, like, the further you go. Like, people were about to kill Jalen Williams. And this was the thing I talk about, like, people talking about, 16 game player, this 16. I'm like, if you're not a star, like, you're going to have stretches of bad basketball, because you're not going to, sometimes you don't get the ball enough to do the thing that you do. Sometimes your role changes within the course of a series. But we saw Jalen Williams, game 7, game 1. This time it's like people making these things about who's a 16 game player. Like, we'll talk about this when Austin comes up later. Sure. But like, Austin, like, the first playoff run, he disappeared from like game 4 Memphis to like game 3 of Golden State, and like nobody talked about it. It's like, oh, Austin's tired. So like, he hasn't proven to be like that level of guy, even though everybody thought he was. So like, we'll talk about that later though. But and like,
also, the history tells us as well that Memphis team, where are they now? Right? Like,
JJJ rebounds, baby.
We actually played them. Well, they were actually pretenders that looked like contenders for that season. Minnesota made it to the Western Conference Finals, back-to-back seasons. They got Anthony Edwards.
I think they watch might be a little fake with that too, but we'll talk about that later.
Yeah, I know you're not a big AE fan.
If Wardell was healthy, it'd be looking different. But shout out to my dog Julius Randle.
Yeah. Well, again,
another person they called a playoff dropper. Now look at him. I'm just saying, man. Narratives are stupid. Matchups matter.
That is true.
Like, stop all this other stuff. Like, sometimes you just can't execute against a specific defense or person. Like, it just be that simple sometimes. It ain't like, oh, he ain't got the wherewithal. I'm like, I'm not here to talk about people's mental fortitude and nothing like that. But go ahead.
and what you mentioned about role players is something people have to remember. The difference between a role player and like stars and starters, there's one key difference, and it's consistency. A star player will consistently give you that level. LeBron's going to give you 25-5. Luka's going to give you 26-4. Like, you can write it in pen, right? Your role players, they always fluctuate, because if they were that good, they wouldn't be role players. They'd be stars and stars. You'd be like, oh yeah, like Austin's going to give me 27 every night. I'm positive. That's a different level than where he's at now. Now he can sometimes do that. Typically, he'll give you somewhere in the 20-ish range, and then, it just depends, right? And he can have those games. So it's weird to be like, oh, you're a role player. You have to be the best version of you in that role every single game for like 2 months.
Every time, bro. Like, what are you talking about? Like, nobody does that.
Yeah, I'm like, if he can consistently be that,
you talk about like consistency. You also get a consistent role. Like, we watching Jalen Brunson going to the Eastern Conference Finals. I watched him play last year, the first round of the playoffs. He was like 8 for 24 to 26 for like the first 2. I think he was like 16 for like his first like 70 shots in that series. But nobody's gonna be like, all right, brother, you need to stop shooting. Like, that happens to lower guys on the rung of teams. Like, you can't play your way out of certain things sometimes because you don't have the opportunity to do that. I think Austin had a little more opportunity as a third option, but he got hurt game 3 or whatever, so I'm not gonna hold that against him, even though, like, I don't know about all that. But just like when you're watching games and you're watching these playoffs, I think people overrate the playoff experience and boil it down to whether or not a guy's mentally tough enough or anything. Like I just like sometimes you just have a bad matchup, sometimes you're just not making shots, and that's just like all it really boils down to. As long as you're executing, as long as you're doing things like if you're getting open shots and missing them, I'm not gonna be like, oh, the playoff pressure. I'm like, oh, he just missed a shot, make a
No,
mislead.
yeah,
That's what it is,
no,
and that is how I tend to view these things. So like I'm not making value assessments mostly off of like a 6 game sample size in the playoffs. That's just not what I do personally. But
so
some people do.
I'm struggling with how much these playoffs should matter for the Lakers. And what I mean by that is for the individual player assessment.
Right.
The overall story is pretty simple. We're not as good as them. We need new players to be better than them. So
Ro-
that part makes sense. You know,
I think the only time that roster wasn't the major factor in how we lost was last year.
yeah, yes, the
Just
Nuggets.
in terms of like, I think because like when we played the Denver Nuggets in the first Western Conference Finals, we didn't have a wing size player that was worth anything that we could put out there. Like that was a disadvantage. So we were going out there with 4 guard lineups, getting absolutely killed in transition. Like those kind of things happen. This year, we didn't have enough big bodies to really do anything with what Minnesota had going on. But it's more of a roster thing than like, oh, this guy didn't step up, even though like people want to talk about Luka in certain games. Like we didn't close. That was another thing that's also been a problem. We'll talk about this when we get to LeBron James. Even with all that said, their stars closed out games and ours didn't. And that's pretty much what these things have come down to. It came down to that in the Nugget series. It came down to that in the Nugget series again. And then it came down to it in the Minnesota series. And I don't think Minnesota's a particularly good closing team. But we getting way far off the path of player reviews and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But,
So
we'll talk about all that stuff later.
yeah, absolutely. We'll things to discuss later. All right, things to discuss now. Are you ready for some Jaxson Hayes? Can I introduce you to some
I mean,
Jaxson
we
Hayes?
can. Are we going to talk about Jordan Goodwin? Because I definitely did his film study. I don't think y'all dropped the article yet.
I do not think we have it ready quite yet. Let me see.
It's all good. I'm already prepped, baby. It's all good. We can talk
Okay,
about
let me just take a quick. Let me take a quick look at the sheet. Well, I know what we had today because it was my Dalton one. Yeah, we got Goodwin's not until tomorrow, so we'll say that for the next one. All right,
Okay.
so cool. So can we do a little bit of Jaxson Hayes here?
Yeah, I'm pulling up the the
Right,
miscellaneous highlights.
I'll just kind of go ahead. I'll kind of just riff on Jaxson Hayes and what I thought. I did not like the idea of having Jaxson Hayes as our backup center from the beginning of the season, and it was definitely a roller coaster. I'm like, I'm not really seeing anything about this, and then as the season started, I'm like, I'm correct. And then when AD left, funny enough, like Redick was able to kind of maximize his talent, and I'm like, yo, he looks like a solid, like solid center. Like I kind of know it's a fugazi, but props to you for kind of making it work. And
Right.
what we talk about with Luka, he wants verticality and a lob threat, and as hard as it was, Jaxson was making that work. He was keeping it simple, rolling to the rim hard, finding his lanes, and he's got a big radius. You can just kind of throw it in that vicinity, and he takes care of business. He is incredibly fit. He's one of the most fit players on the team. Like I've stood close to all these guys. He's like zero body fat, always going, always fast. Like he's a medical marvel in that sense. He really is one of the most fit guys. I think he could run a marathon and sit down and talk with us without losing his breath at all. He'd be like, "Yeah, what's up, guys? Yeah, I'm a little hot, but it's cool." Like he's got that kind of conditioning, which is needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the NBA, Luka, it's needed, right? Having that kind of conditioning. He would.
Hey, they said the boy that did JJ Pye was like, hey, he locking in. He's like, I heard from multiple people that brother locking in. So we'll see.
mean, it is almost the best condition of my life season, so I'm not surprised. We'll see what
Hey,
happens.
sometimes people be lying, but like some of them don't. Like when Kobe said that, he was dead serious, and he was right.
That's true. We'll see. Again, we'll talk about Luka later. I'm not too worried. I think he will get it together, but
Yeah.
he also has to get it together. So
It's like, what are you gonna give us 28 instead of 30 points? Like, Fat man still get it done. Fat Luka still be getting busy.
Yeah. Here he is, right here, right? Finding Hayes. So I think that part was great. What was I think we were maximizing everything we could from him, and we were overusing him, but it was working.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't like a couple things with Hayes overall. Overall, he makes those boneheaded decisions. He was getting in so much foul trouble, and they tried talking to him. Like Redick literally told us straight up, I've talked to him about you can't talk to the refs. Like, you're too important. You're our only big. Like, you cannot get in foul trouble. And he talked to us about that after a couple games where it's like, oh, he was at like 5 fouls early, 4 fouls early. He's like, yeah, I talked to him. And then we talked to Hayes, and he said the same thing. Yeah, coach has been telling me, I got to be a better leader. Like, I get it. I'm like one of our only centers. I can't be doing that. And the next game, he had like 2 quick fouls, and we're like, come on, what's going on, Jaxson? We talked about this yesterday. So those were the things I didn't like. And then at the end, I feel like it was a combination. He didn't play well. And I think that one, JJ stuck with him too much, and then both were in the wrong. He stuck with him too much, and then he completely abandoned him. And I'm like, there's a middle there. We could have maybe
game 4. He probably should have played. What was it, game 4 or game 5? I can't remember. He should have played more.
He played none in game 5.
No, it was game 4. Then he should have played more in game 4. Then is what.
Yeah, both games. But yes, game 4 he should have played more. Game 5 he shouldn't have been a DMP. Like, look, he still has value. You could still use his 8 minutes in different spots. I don't know. Maybe when you take LeBron out and Austin out, you put Hayes in with like a different lineup, different looks. You can still use him. Just don't use him to start games, and he shouldn't be your primary starter. Like, we agree on that. Like, that shouldn't be the start lineup. Right. But like, again, you need to find ways to mix it up. It was a flawed roster, but the only way they were going to win, because we acknowledge the Wolves were better, you were going to have to really maximize all those little nuances, and I don't think they did. I think that made things rough. That made his season really, really, again, people talk about 16-game play. Like, oh, now he looks like trash, right?
We just talked about it. Like, sometimes how you end the season negatively colors, yes. But you got there. The only reason you kind of got there is because you played well up to that point, and like, exactly. I don't think it should be that way.
Yeah, and he went from, he was probably going to get a bag this summer. He'll probably be back to like a vet minimum kind of vibe, because people are going to just remember, oh yeah, you were the guy who got played off, the court, your best friend benched you the whole game. So that's kind of my overall thoughts on Hayes before we get into the details. Tell me what you kind of thought of his year overall.
I thought, like, I'm not going to say I'm like a Jaxson Hayes aficionado and know everything about him, but I think this was the best season of basketball he played, which is saying something both positively and negatively. Given how he started the season, it looked like he might not be long for like what we had going on here, but like you said, picked it up and really got his motor going the second half of the season. I think part of that is, I think not having, even though like, we didn't play him with AD like a ton. Not having another guy in there who kind of operates in the paint kind of opened up some things for him as a roller, and having a Luka Doncic kind of guy, and Austin Reeves to a lesser extent, being able to set like screens out higher and stuff like that, giving him more of a runway to do the things that he does best, which is be athletic. His hands have been surprisingly reliable for 2 years now. I didn't know his hands were as good as they are. Just knowing how to play in like 5-out situations. Like he'll be a guy that catches the ball in the corner. He's looking for handoffs. He's not trying to do too much outside of what he can do. And I appreciated that part of his game. I think that, I think that it's a combination. He kind of has the same problem that Dalton has, though, where like part of his problem is thinking the game in certain respects and doing things that you don't need to be doing on the defensive end, and like making certain decisions with your body and stuff like that, being a little reckless. And the other part of it is, even though he's this athletic marvel, he's still like a light, skinny guy. And we can't deploy him in certain matchups. And we got the worst possible matchup we could have envisioned with him going up against a Rudy Gobert, Julius Randle front court in the end of the season. So that leads to things where like he's getting fouls, mental fouls, and he's getting physical fouls and stuff like that. But I was like pretty much happy with what we got from him. He didn't do anything that I wasn't expecting him to do, positively or negatively. I just think that we ran into a team that made his presence look worse than it was. And I think he lost himself some money as a result. But like, I was like I said, I think this is the best season he played, and for what I expect him to be, he pretty much gave us the upper end of what I could reasonably expect Jaxson Hayes to do for us. So in that sense, I think his season was a success, just like from what we got out of him. The season ended how it ended, and that's going to play out how it plays out in the market. But I was mostly happy with what he gave us this season.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%. I thought that he gave us more than I thought he could, and he improved as the season went along. And that was even rarer of an idea when AD left. I'm like, oh man, he's gonna like it's going to be brutal. But no, he was giving you 8.2 points, 5.5 rebounds, and 74% shooting. Because again, he just kind of takes the shots that are open for him, which is like open dunks.
Right.
So I think that was the best basketball I've ever seen him play. I talked to some Pelicans people from back in the day when he was there, and they're like, he just always works on the wrong things, like working on his shot, and like it doesn't make sense. And we saw less of that. He was just kind of focused on, I know what I need to do. I know what my job is. My job is to do dribble handoffs, be in pick and rolls, go screens, and just roll to the basket. That's what I need to do. And he did that. So I really enjoyed that from his game. And like you said, at the end of the day, Randall and Gobert, those are max money players that he was playing up against. And he's not that. It'd be like being mad at Jordan Goodwin for not matching bucket to bucket with Steph. It's like, that's not his job. Like, Steph is Steph. Like, Goodwin's cool, but he's not an all NBA, like, all-star Hall of Famer. Like, why are you comparing him to that? And I feel like that's what happened with Hayes. He ended up being almost like, he wasn't blamed for everything being wrong, but he was like one of the loud, this is not working in our team. And the thing is, he's never supposed to be the starting center. He went from backup center to the only center, the only one. So like, he should never be. There is no team in the NBA that should have only one center, and the one center is Jaxson Hayes. As a backup, very, very good. And really respectable. He could come back to this team as a back. I don't think he will, because I can't imagine he would. He'd probably rather just literally do anything else anywhere else for the same money, given how it went. Personally, that's what I think. I hope I'm not necessarily. I hope I'm wrong, but like, I wouldn't mind him being back. He obviously can't be the main guy, but he could come back on a vet minimum in that. But I think we said goodbye. I think he's gonna be like, man, F y'all, which I understand, because he's like, hey, I looked bad. No one really had my back on that, and that's how it ended. Like you said, at the end, kind of soured it probably for everybody, including him. So we're probably done with Jaxson Hayes in terms of future seasons. But do you have a game you want to kind of look at on Jaxson Hayes and see kind of the good that he did do? If not, I can pull something up.
Yeah, I would say not necessarily a game, just I thought this was just a really good season of him doing his job. It's only so many. Like, he had that one game where I think he was like perfect from the field or something like that. He was close to it. I can't remember. It was late in the season, but I can't remember which game it was. But this is like the most reliable version of him I think we're gonna get. Yeah. And I was let me see if I can find this game real quick. Maybe I can sort by something. No, you can't sort. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Cool. I got one. I got another one too that we can go to. Once you
it was this Pelicans game where he apparently
that's what I was looking at. Yeah, 19 points.
102 point. He shot 102% true shooting percentage.
Yeah, his like, percentage was dumb. It was like,
turn that down. Now, we don't know if there was an element of revenge here or what was going on, but
he killed him. This was like a March game. Right away. First, and so often they started games off with like,
he was the designated start the playoff guy, like the first play they would run some kind of set
it was always a lob to Jaxson. Usually Luka. Here we got LeBron doing it, but it was usually Luka. 2-man game there, and he would get it there. So often there they were doing that. Again, just little screen,
multiple screens, set in the window that was available. Slow down.
Right, not the strongest guy, but he uses his size and his body to kind of at least create enough distance needed.
He didn't even really set screens. He just, he knew he had a good
he kind of flashes
and slip and stuff. What'd you say?
Yeah, he kind of just flashes and he uses his elbows to kind of create enough space, because he's, like you say, he doesn't use his strength to like really hit somebody. And that's why against a team like the Wolves, that's not going to be enough. Like, you really got to be like, you got to be a monster, and that he is not, because like you said, he's still a really frail, thin guy. He just doesn't have that kind of strength to like take a 280-pound muscle dude like Gobert. Like it's tough to physically. You can't really physically dominate Gobert like that. See right here, dunker spot. He's just ready to clean it up. There it is.
I'm trying to remember the Denver game when we played with pretty much nobody. I'm trying to remember. Did he play that game? I can't remember.
There's a couple of games, I think, against a couple of teams that were like that. Let me see.
Because that might have been Coloco. I'm thinking about that. Had some good minutes against Jokic.
Yeah, that was Coloco. Yeah, that was Coloco. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, see, Koloko had like
But
10 points or something in that one. He did play in that one, but he had 6, so it's kind of just like a regular game.
yeah. But he had like a couple games to get some better bigs that I'm trying to remember. I can't remember them off the top of my head though. But just all of this footage is just him finding the spots in the defense where he could be effective, making himself available, and finishing, which is pretty much all we could reasonably expect from him. I think that was the last clip there.
Yeah. I'd like to look at one of the playoff games. Oh, never mind. That's just never mind. I changed my mind.
You sure? You sure?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, you know what? Can you do all the playoff clips?
Yeah. Oh, just all of them in general?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, we can. I got.
Okay, we'll just look at that. Yeah, again, they weren't his best moments for sure, but might as well watch it. I also try to watch
Hey.
uh all the playoff stuff from the guys because since that's what people care about the most, I'm like, hey, let's just rewatch these moments and see kind of what happened here.
It's only 5 games. That gave me right. It got to be a little bit.
Yeah,
more
no,
than 5.
that's right. That's right.
He didn't have more than 1 block. Oh, man.
He had 2 points in like every game, so that'd be 4, and then it's like a rebound, and that's.
Oh, I'm gonna say he ain't had no rebounds. Like, what's going on? Let me make sure this is muted. All right, let's go. So game 2,
right there. You look, see, he got at least a little separation on Randall.
I think this game he had a little bit of a problem catching the basketball. I think I can't remember if it was game 1 or game 2, but we tried to run a couple things for him, and he wasn't able to execute them because he kind of bobbled the ball a little bit. And that I think that was kind of like the final, like, get this guy out of here kind of moment. But still, this is he's showing some of the value he could have provided.
Right.
If he was able to stay on the floor and if he had a certain level of trust. But we were losing his minutes by so much initially that I kind of see why they kind of did that. But like, I think we could have sprinkled him in some bench scenarios and stuff like that. Like their bench was not playing well, like outside of game 1. Like we could have found.
There's a reason when we benched him, Gobert scored like freaking 40, right? It's like it was overcorrection too far. Now we got nobody at all. And
let me go back to that.
And things are happening that shouldn't be happening.
Because this is kind of the thing that he's like best at, giving his athletic profile, just like showing high and trying to contain the ball as best he can. He actually recovered and got a block here after kind of falling for the pump fake there. But like we could have deployed him in certain ways.
Exactly, and we have him here. He's able to, like you say, he's able to recover, even though he, like you said, he bit on the pump fake there.
Yeah, we saw Ant turn this corner a lot. Now we were kind of waiting for him on the back end, but like he was one of the people who had some foot speed at least. Like we had these Luka, Austin, Rui lineups out here that don't give you much in like the way of foot speed. Now, like of course he has his fouling issues and stuff like that, but like I think we could have probably tried to deploy him in certain ways and take advantage of his foot speed as well. But some of the other things were so negative that they didn't really want to,
Yeah, good job there. Gobert overhelped, and then that he just slipped through.
Yeah, this is game 3.
Yeah, nice.
The left-hand finish. Now, this is the game I thought he got a bad deal because I think we won his stretch when he was out there. Like I didn't see anything in his minutes to suggest that he shouldn't have played another stint. That
was a great move by Rui. Rui had a great first round. We'll talk about Rui when we get to him, later on.
About one of the greatest postseason shooters ever right there. No?
What I really love about, because Rui actually has a lot of haters. I don't know. How do you feel? Do you feel like that? Because I hear a lot of Rui hate.
I think most of that is, I think it's mostly like, I think like if there was anybody who like took a portion, probably should have got the biggest like portion of the quote unquote blame pie for like the Nugget series last year. I think he was kind of like the main culprit and why we lost some of those games. Not necessarily one individual moment, but I think he was the guy that was like least ready to meet the moment in certain respects, like defensively and stuff like that. But I thought, what was the full question?
Just like
I thought he had a really
in your life, like in my life, I hear a lot of Rui.
No, I'm not a Rui hater. I hear it a lot.
That's what I'm saying. Do you hear it a lot? Because I hear it a lot.
Yeah, I hear it a lot. I was one of the people who thought that he probably was going to be one of the more likely people to be traded just due to his contract and stuff like that. But he laced them up this season, was absolutely hooping, did more for us on the defensive end and on the glass than he's ever done before. Now, his level of like his best is like not like upper echelon level, but like he did everything we asked him to do. He got better at the things that we needed him to get better at, and ended the season off really well. um another thing where it's like styles make fights matchups or whatever they are, because like people wanted to send him into the sun after the Nugget series, and then he was one of our better performers against the Timberwolves, which I thought was probably going to be a shaky matchup for him, just because they had guys similarly sized that can kind of like, when guys are like similar to him, he kind of disappears a little bit just because he doesn't have the novelty of like attacking mismatches and stuff like that. But he really like stepped up in that series, and as a basketball player, just doing the things that we need him to do. So like the people I talk to, we respect Rui, you know what I'm saying? But we still think that he could probably be somebody that he's more of a luxury than like a necessity at certain points. But like I'm all good with Rui personally.
Yeah, and I think for me, I just heard from a lot of people that they didn't really like Rui. And I'm like, I don't get it, and they kind of would talk about that, or they just you pick and choose, right? They would see certain things and like, see, that's the bad, and then when I show them
He's
the good,
another
they'd be
one
like,
of those
yeah,
people
well,
that they overstep the IQ thing. Like he's one of those guys.
yeah. And I'm like, look, I was more on Reddick's side because he started him. I think he started every single game. I'm like, yeah, that's who he is. And for me, selfishly, I'm just happy he had a great playoff series, because now nobody can say the stuff you said, right? Like if he had a bad week that week, they'd be like, you see, it's back to back here. And now they're
Right.
like, oh, I guess I gotta shut up now because he was the least of our problems. Like, yeah, exactly. Like I told you, Rui's a really good player. Again, can he be moved? Yeah, because he's got a good contract. He's a wing, and wings are very like it just because you got traded doesn't mean you're not good. It just means that it might be what's needed. But if he comes back, I think now everyone will kind of be quiet and be like, hey, he balled out all year. He balled out in the big moments, even in the tough series. He wasn't the problem. He played pretty good, and he had a lot of great finishes. But we'll get to Rui in a little bit. Likely next week we'll touch up on that. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say about Jaxson. Like I said, unfortunately, I don't think it's probably be the last time we talk about Jaxson Hayes, unless the Wizards are playing the Lakers, in March or something.
Like, oh, you on the Brooklyn Nets, baby? Okay, then.
Yeah, the Brooklyn Lakers. You know what I mean? It's him and D'Lo out there just hooping, carefree ball.
Max Lewis, give Max Lewis some love. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, you're right, Max.
Hey,
yeah.
Max was hooping on the Nets. I ain't gonna hold you. He was that jumper that he never could find with us. He was cooking after he broke his leg somehow. I'm like, huh?
Yeah, I like Maxwell Lewis. I get it. Like he just was a rough prospect and just didn't have a role here. There really wasn't a place to put him in. But I like his potential. He's a really good guy, really hard worker. His family was awesome. When I went to see him in Summer League, they were so loud. I could hear them every time Maxwell did anything. Yeah, and they didn't have like a bunch of people. They had like 8 people, but they were like the loudest in the stadium. So they're like, "Yeah, Max," and I'm like, "That's just cool." It was like high school vibes, and like they're really making sure in this like 20,000 seat stadium that's like 15,000 filled. They're like, "No, you're gonna hear us because we're here for Maxwell Lewis." So that was really cool.
Graduation vibes.
Yeah, it was definitely graduation vibes. Yes. So great guy, hard worker. I hope he develops there, but it made sense to kind of let him go. They just didn't have a spot for him, and the timeline he's on, it just doesn't make sense for the Lakers. Like, you really already gotta kind of have to perform now and then improve, and he's just a couple of years probably away from that. But on a team like Brooklyn that was trying to get Cooper Fleck, that's totally fine.
Right.
Yeah,
I think they should have got him. I think that was the most ethical tank I saw all season. Was the Brooklyn Nets? They should have got rewarded for that. But yeah.
Hey man, the ping pong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it'd be like that. It'd be like that sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, I agree. The Utah one was nasty. I mean, the league would have to be like, stop, man. Like
I would tune into their games just like when they would like play the Pelicans. I'm like, let me tune in to see who they got on this basketball floor. And it was always nobody that's going to be playing on their roster next year. It was
the minute you hit a 3, you were subbed out. They're like, all right, calm down, big man, calm down. The league had to find them. They're like, bro, Laurie's not hurt, bro.
Right? Like, ain't no way he hurt. He played like 40 games the last 3 seasons.
And they're like,
I feel bad for him.
Yeah, I mean, being in Utah's tough. Like it's a tough place right now. They don't have any, path forward. And yeah, like you said, they were not ethical because that team was good enough to win 35 games. You know what I mean? Like They were not that bad. Were they going to win?
They've been good enough to do that every season. Like
every just like season. Around Christmas, they're like, hey, they're like the 9th seed, the 8th seed. And then I would always tell people, would be like, you think they might sneak in? I'm like, watch this. Like, no, they're not going to sneak in. I promise
Daniel
you.
Ainge
Danny Ainge will scoot up himself if he has to. They will not be winning games anymore because they are tanking to a disgusting
Maybe Lowry
level.
was hurt. He out here taking pipes to knees and like covering it up like that. Chill
So I'm
out,
like,
Lowry.
I'm like, you don't have to. I don't care how good Utah start. They could start 8-0. I'm telling you right now, they're gonna win 18 games because they're gonna figure
Right.
out how to lose these games. They're gonna bench who they're gonna bench. They're gonna play. They're gonna mess the rotations up. They're gonna figure it out. They're gonna waste their challenges early. Like they're gonna do everything they can to make sure that them boys don't get enough W's to impact us. But like you said, it hasn't worked. That's just the luck of the draw, and that's kind of the point. The NBA. It's so funny people get mad about that stuff. I'm like, the NBA keeps telling teams stop doing it. We're literally making it so it's just kind of random, and like your percentage will be as low as possible. And they're like, well, we're gonna get the best low percentage chance we can. It's like, all right, man, don't come crying to me if it don't work, because it's a better chance. But again, people, I found out from the lottery, people don't know what probability means and what percentages are.
Right. Now, I like to like get into the conspiracy of it, like because the Spurs. I'm like, come on, bro. Like, but like my rational brain is like, yeah, like they didn't do that, but
they're not gonna do all that stuff.
They said like every team. They said there's like six different teams that could have had a chance, but the last ping pong ball was the one that decided.
It's all percentages. It's all supervised. You think Danny Ainge is gonna be tanking games and then he knows that he's not getting a draft pick? Like, come on, bro. Like, he at least wouldn't have tanked. There would be no point in tanking because you're like, oh, I already know it's scripted. It's going to him. Why am I gonna bother losing games on? It's all again. We like to think that there's something about humans that want everything to be under control and they don't want to think that it's random. And I'm like, the world is not running by like 3 people actually controlling everything the way you think it is. It's a lot of
it's like 17.
It's a lot of silliness, a lot of randomness, a lot of like, how the heck did this happen? That happened just like it happens in our lives. Actually, you know what? I think this was it's all schemed. It's like, okay, they're not that smart. It's not as smart as you think it is, which is what makes it so silly, because a couple of ping pong balls changed the fate of an organization when Danny Ainge is dedicating his life to taking games, trying to get that exact player. But it is what it is. That's the end of that one.
Couldn't happen to a better guy though, no.
Yeah, shout out to Nico. And before we wrap up here on Jaxson Hayes, let's get both of them. What's your favorite Jaxson Hayes moment / memory from the season? And then I'll give mine.
Ooh, I can't even remember. I don't know, man. If we go on like, because I can't remember one from the season, to be completely honest with you. But his entire tenure, that Celtics game that he played when it was no AD, no Bron, that was probably my favorite like Jaxson Hayes performance of him being on the roster. Just like
I'm kind of with you. Mm-hmm. Because there wasn't that many. Like, I don't know. He dunked a lot, and I was happy when he dunked.
He catch dunk man, like.
Yeah. Like, I like those. There's one moment. I don't know if you saw it. I'm gonna see if I can pull it up. I can put it up here. Where at practice, which I get, it's maybe a bad sign, but it was fun.
You gonna share the screen, or you gonna?
I'm trying to find it, but it was on Lakers Twitter account, and like that's really, really hard to. Okay, yeah. I think I found it. Hold on, give me a second. Let me.
Guards versus bigs. What we doing? No.
Yeah, let me see. I'm gonna see if I can copy this link. I think I got it. All right, cool. Yeah. So I'm gonna put it in the chat. If you want to put it up there, here it is. It's it was guards versus bigs. Okay. I think I found the IG one. Let's see if you could pull it up there.
Let's see.
And I just thought it was a fun moment, but also maybe not a good sign in hindsight. So
because he was whooping up on JJ, like, hey, you better stop doing that, brother.
I'm gonna let you watch it. I'll put it up on the Jumbotron. We can all watch it together. Lakers guards versus bigs and a practice. We got Coach JJ Redick against Jaxson Hayes. Let's see who wins.
Oh, he got fouled, I think. If I remember correctly, he got fouled. JJ almost ripped his pants off. JJ almost pants that boy.
Shout out to JJ though. You know what I mean? Like, you probably should have beat him. But look, he tried to front him. Hayes is like, nah, it ain't gonna work. And then he did a little spin. He's like, you know what? I'm gonna just push. And there you go. He didn't get the bucket, but and I'm like, kind of cool that the coach defended and didn't get him the bucket. I'm like, also kind of worried. He should have if he knew then what he knew now, he should have just steamrolled that dude. What are you doing? Just back him down,
man. He's too light. That's all.
I don't care if you were fouled. You should have been able to outmuscle a retired JJ Redick. Take him to the hoop, man. Embarrass him. But hey, JJ stood his
might
own,
be on
man.
that secret sauce. You never know. I'm playing.
He's on something the way he be yelling at that bench. I tell
Oh
you.
yeah, that brother, a wild boy.
He's the type that he's either on something or he's like, actually, I just drink water all day. And I'm like, yeah, you don't need any coffee. Like,
That's me. You know, I'm not like him, but that's all I drank. I had that. I tried that passion fruit lemonade from the dragon fruit lemonade from Chick-fil-A. That was the first time I had anything like that in 8 years, and I'm like, I see why I don't drink this no more. But it was delicious.
There you go. All right, so that's it. That was my favorite moment. Jaxson Hayes unable to score on retired JJ Redick, fouling all.
Yeah, he was trying to ingratiate himself to the coach. You know, he's like, I ain't going to embarrass you, coach. You know, I need this job, baby.
maybe I wish we could have asked him about, hey, like, why couldn't you get a bucket over JJ? So looking at what we're going to be doing coming up here, Thursday, May 29th, we have a lot of players. I'll see if we can squeeze everybody in. We want to do Austin, Rui, DFS, Vando, Gabe, and Goodwin. That's a lot. So
yeah, I thought Goodwin was coming up today. I'm like, I'm ready for the good one. I watched all his plays.
We'll do maybe like we'll see how we'll play it by ear. Maybe we'll do Austin, Goodwin, Rui, and then we'll squeeze in like a lightning round of DFS, Vando, Gabe, and then we have another one coming up in June. So for the next one, be ready to talk about, to tell more of the audience than you, Anthony. Goodwin, Austin, Rui, and then maybe we'll do a quick little 3-pack hitter with DFS, Vando, and Gabe. So yeah, looking forward to those, and definitely with the good ones, since you're already locked in. I haven't done the work yet. I'm also writing the feature on DFS, so I'll make sure I'm doing a bunch of work on DFS. So looking forward to it.
Robert Covington Jr. We call him now.
Oh my goodness, that's a name I haven't heard in a while. He's coming home. You know, he's coming home.
Might be.
And for the site today, as Anthony already shared, we had the Dalton Knecht review. The Jaxson Hayes one was a day ago. Dalton's today. Raj also, let me put it in there. Raj also wrote a really nice article kind of showcasing, like, you know, the ways he can improve on his defense. Like we talked about, that's something that has to be like
Dalton?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, I put it in the chat right there. So anyone can go ahead and check it out. He had some examples and, you know, did his usual thing, you know, sharing some clips and stuff and showing kind of the speed he needs to have and the balance he has to have. You know, again, kind of similar things that we talked about, but just, you know, with some examples and, you know, written word there. So that's pretty cool. Check that out. And then the Sparks play at 7. So I'll be watching that, and Karen will be writing the recap.
We're trying to get y'all some games on here pretty soon. We'll see how that goes.
We're working behind the scenes. We'll see how it goes. We already had some requests for some of that action, so hopefully we can do that. That'd be fun. You know, get a few featured highlight games, some of the national stuff, and see if we can cover that. But yeah, that's what's happening with the site. So if you want to see what happens with the Sparks matchup tonight, we'll have a recap article up on Silver Screen and Roll, and we'll keep coverage on that going along with these player recaps as the summer progresses. All right, anything you wanna say before we wrap it up here?
I'm saying, as always, appreciate everybody for showing up. We talked about the Sparks. Get well soon. Ray Burrell, Rakia Jaxson, everybody, you know what I'm saying? Everybody's on the mend so we can have, you know, somewhat of a decent season. And I think that's all I got for y'all. So, as we always do, till next time.
Peace.